Hello everyone, I'm Paul Thewlis and welcome to this Wisdom of Hindsight business webinar by Two Wise Heads. It's a collaboration between myself and Rob Chiarolli, who today will take us through his CUSP business model to help you organise your business into manageable segments. Hi Rob.
Hi Paul, and hello everyone online. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to us today. I'm looking forward to sharing this model with you all over the next 30 minutes, so I hope you've got some lunch organised and removed any distractions. What I'll be doing is showing you how this model can help you organise your thoughts around your business by following a structured series of activities, which then leads you through what needs to be done to help it grow and make it successful.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that, Rob. But before we do, we should cover some basic housekeeping. We want these webinars to be interactive, so we'd love you to send a question through at any time, or you can wait to the Q&A session at the end. To do this, you'll see a box. As I change the slide for you, you'll see a box on the right-hand side of the screen like this one. Just type your question and we'll address it during the webinar, or Rob will follow up with it later. Now, we're not going to go through a big sort of spiel about our bios and our background. That's on the website for you to read. We want to get straight into the content. Just to remind you that a replay of the webinar will be sent to you after the conclusion, along with Rob's slides presentation. So don't try to get down all the details, just note down any jewels of information or immediate actions that you find important. Okay, Rob, so tell us about this model you use, how it's come about, and how we can benefit from it.
Cool, yeah, thanks, Paul. Well, this model or approach has come about as over the past few years of coaching small business owners. I've found that when I ask them about their plans, many feel overwhelmed when it comes to putting what's in their head onto a piece of paper. It's a well-recognised issue among the business community that too few owners have written business plans to help guide their growth. And that's exactly what I've found out there. Plenty have their thoughts in their heads, but they don't have them written down in a document. Paul, you mentioned even this morning when we had a bit of a coffee that this is something you've seen over the years yourself as well.
Yeah, that's right, Rob. I come across a lot of business owners saying that they will write up a business plan of action, but they never get round to it. So.
Yeah, look, too often when I ask, they tell me that they attend seminars or they download templates and example business plans and so on, but then they stop at that, as the whole exercise is then just too laborious, and they just don't know where to start. In the end, many of the ideas that they have are forgotten, or the owners stop and start depending on what the latest trend is. They follow the next shiny object, so to speak. A lot don't have a clear direction for the business, or often they've got too many directions. Quite a few of them just don't have even basic processes systemised so that they're reproducible and scalable. And there are some, real key and core aspects of setting up and managing a business that are just not being done properly, and in some cases just not at all. So I've put this CUSP model together. It's my culture, unifiers, systems and people model, as you can see on the screen, which guides business owners in a structured way through the different key aspects so that they're easier to visualise, manage and then implement.
So Rob, the model helps organise the actions and the thoughts for the business owner?
Absolutely right, Paul. You can see the model's divided broadly into those four segments. And research shows that most people, I think it's something like 65%, prefer to work visually. They like having something laid out so they can see it, and it helps people retain and recall information a lot more efficiently and better that way. These quadrant-style models, these four-step models, have been used for decades, particularly in the business community, across many different disciplines, just to help organise and remember the various principles that they're trying to teach. Any marketers online will be familiar with the original Boston Matrix quadrant approach for product life cycles, for example, the STAR, cash cow, problem child and dog classification of products, which is then used to plan the promotional effort behind each product. Quadrant models also being used by the Gordon Training International Group for its well-known 4 stages of learning model. Robert Kiyosaki is another example, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, who I think you like, Paul.
Yeah.
He introduced his cash flow quadrant as his second book, using a 4-step quadrant. And there's numerous leadership, emotional intelligence, and even behavioural profiling tools like DISC and Myers-Briggs type indicator scale that uses quadrant method. Later on today, I'll even be mentioning another one, the SWOT analysis. It's very commonly used in business planning. So my CUSP model also uses this approach to help business owners organise their thoughts and actions in a purposeful way. It's a proven method that business owners generally find nice and effective.
Okay, so Rob, tell us about your 4 quadrants then.
Yeah, sure, Paul. With the CUSP model, there are different actions required in each quadrant of the model. And for each of the various overall purposes, they all integrate across the model as they would in a real business. So none of the quadrants exist on their own. However, their order is important, I've found in practice. So the culture quadrant takes care of the why. Why are you in business? The unifiers quadrant represents what will keep the different elements of the business together, and it details what keeps the business going and on track. In other words, it's the what. The systems quadrant is pretty self-explanatory. It develops the systems and the processes required to measure and deliver the what. In other words, how will everything in the business be controlled? And finally, and yes, last for a reason, the who, the people, and who will make it all happen for the business. And before we get into this model, I thought I'd share this quote with you all by Jerry Rice, who's a famous wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, I think in the 80s and 90s. And it's there, today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't. So this is a reminder to you all that no matter how simplified I make this all sound today, it does come down to making a start and not being like many of the other business owners that just go with the flow. This is a powerful model, but it needs to be implemented with enthusiasm to really reap the true benefits.
Yeah, that's so true, Rob. Okay, so let's get started with the first quadrant and what's involved.
Sure, Paul. The first quadrant is the culture quadrant, and as I've mentioned, this is asking the question, why am I in business and what am I doing? In this area, we're looking at developing a clear mission statement, something that tells the world what you and your business do and how you will do it. Now, this can be quite an exercise to get right, and I find many business owners fail to give it enough time and focus, as it then drives the rest of the business and all the actions to deliver the mission. You really need to know your core strengths and what goals you want to achieve, and then craft a solid mission which expresses your ideas, measures the desired results to really have a successful business. Next part of it is a vision. A clear and exciting vision inspires people and reflects what the business will do and what it will become. It articulates, I guess, a view of the world that your business and people are working towards. It's a future-focused statement for your business. We then need to be very clear on the values. These are the fundamental beliefs of both you, the owner, and what the business itself will live by and reflect to the outside world. These will determine the attitudes about how people will be treated and drive the behaviours encouraged within the business. Together, the values, the attitudes and behaviours really are the culture of your business, the why and the how you do things. That's the sort of things you would emphasise, for example, in an elevator speech if you're at a networking event.
So there's a reason why it's in the first quadrant?
Sure is, Paul. I've put it there because a business owner really needs to know from the start why they are in business, what they're passionate about, and to be focused on it. Without putting this down in writing, there's really no clear guide to follow to keep them on track. And all the successful businesses that have survived the test of time do have well-crafted mission and vision statements that have driven their success.
All right, so the next quadrant, the unifiers, can you tell us about them?
Sure. Yes, this quadrant's all about the what. What are we selling, to whom, and how do we measure our success? The most important part of this is a thorough, honest, and comprehensive SWOT analysis. This provides a detailed summary of the strengths and weaknesses of your business and your competitors, and the opportunities and the threats available in the market. This is something I've found is done very poorly by many business owners, and if they do it, it's often done very superficially. The more extensive the SWOT, and the more confidence you can have in the strategies that the analysis will help you establish. The SWOT will help you find your USP, your unique selling proposition, based on what differentiates you from your competitors and what elevates you in what could be a congested market. So as a result, you can actually identify a niche in the market based on that USP, and you can create a profile for your ideal client, the avatar of your business. This is important as it drives your sales and your marketing focus later towards the right client base. So the SWOT will also identify, as a result, your critical success factors, your CSFs, and those that will ensure that you achieve what you set out as your goals and the strategies that need to be implemented to do so. As I've got there, another core aspect of this quadrant is setting the core business benchmarks for you and your staff to meet, and the KPIs, the key performance indicators, which will make sure you're on track, doing the right things and doing them correctly.
It sounds like it's a very important part of any business.
Absolutely, Paul. It's an area, look, I often get engaged in to help business owners with. It's the one area where having someone you can trust and who's had significant business experience to ask questions of you and your team and preparing the plans. It can influence whether your business will be a success or not, and this is the part to get right, and as the rest of it will fall into place. You'll probably notice that doing the SWOT analysis of your business will actually give you the strengths and the opportunities that your mission and vision should be based on. So in some respects, a business owner really needs to have done a decent SWOT before sitting down and developing their initial mission and vision statements. So you can see how important it is to have a correctly implemented SWOT for a business owner. In fact, I'll be dedicating one of our future seminars on this topic in 4 weeks' time on March the 3rd. So if this is something that you need help in or you know somebody that would benefit, please visit the Two Wise Heads website and register for that webinar. Well, I'll spend a bit more time with it.
Yeah, that's a great reminder to our listeners, Rob, that we have a series of webinars on the website. In 2 weeks' time, I'll be taking people through web forensics, which combines skilled business analysis with various analytical tools to provide a competitive analysis of your website versus your competition. It has the potential to give your business a new lease of life by giving you a clear and well-informed strategic approach to online marketing. So visit twowiseheads.com.au to view our full program. Rob, I've come across a few businesses in my time where benchmarks aren't really acted upon by the staff. It's put up and they're not really doing the do, so to speak. How do you tackle that?
Yeah, look, I can appreciate that, Paul. It's one mistake owners can make is not to get buy-in from their staff when they're developing and creating their mission and vision statements. And not everyone likes being dictated to. And having a mission and vision thrust on you from above can, I find, cause some discontent. So I always recommend where you have staff that it's a good joint exercise to help develop these statements. It actually results in employees then having some buy-in, and therefore you find more commitment to what they've created. So that's sort of my comment with the benchmarks. I think if it's a joint exercise and they can share in that dream, then you'll get ownership of it and they'll actually do it.
Yeah, okay, that's a great point. Thanks, Rob. So, okay, now let's move on to the third quadrant, the systems.
Yeah. Okay, so this puts the what into the plans and develops the processes that need to be followed. These systems show how you will achieve the goals and the objectives that have been set in the previous section of the model. This is where we break down the strategies into action plans to deliver the results. So the three core areas that I focus on are the marketing systems, the financial and the operation systems within a business, as you can see in this slide. It's quite a detailed part of this model. So the marketing system comprises a broad range of areas, as you can see. It includes the sales processes, how you manage sales orders, how you answer phones and deal with customer relations. It includes the digital and social media processes, which govern the various lead generation vehicles, the website and social media campaigns, and how to capture all the potential clients in a CRM. It includes the advertising and promotions processes, as well as the corporate PR process to enhance the profile of the business in the market. So these various marketing aspects are delivering on the strategies. So they all need to dovetail nicely together with a clear focus on the outcomes. So there's a lot to go through here and get right, and again, it's made easier if the strategies you have in place have been based on a sound and thorough research from your SWOT analysis. So again, it comes back to having done a very comprehensive SWOT, and that you know yourself and your competition and the market out there. The financial systems need to look at your BAS and tax compliance, of course, and they provide the necessary reports that measure your sales, your costs, and more importantly, keep a close eye on your cash flow.
Yeah, so cash is still king, Rob, then, is it?
It sure is, Paul. A lot of business owners I come across keep a close eye on their profit and loss statements, but these can often mask a poor cash position. You often find money is held in stock or in bad debtors that go beyond your trading terms. They don't actually clearly show up on a P&L. And there are many a business that have gone under with revenues of millions of dollars a year. I mean, you read about them in the paper all the time. But there are so many businesses that go under that you actually don't read about, many of the small to medium ones. And having a separate cash flow forecast and keeping a close eye on it and where your cash is really a mandatory task that I endorse for most business owners. And that's why I cover it in the model. It's such an eye-opener and one that business owners often don't focus on, and often, as I said, it's to their detriment in the end.
All right, so let's move on to the operations process at the bottom then.
Yeah, well, this part of the model ensures you cover off the HR, the legal, and the technology aspects, as well as the health and safety. There's a whole range of HR aspects, such as job descriptions, recruitment strategies, and other aspects that impact depending on the size of your business. The legal aspects need to be covered, things such as contracts, supply agreements, any cooperative arrangements that you have, and finally you've got to cover off all the insurances needed to run your business. And finally, of course, there's the technology in terms of the computers that you have, your websites, protecting your data, and backup plans that need to be all formally managed so nothing slips through that could in the end damage the business.
Okay, Rob. Right, so let's move on to the final quadrant, people. You mentioned earlier that this quadrant is last for a reason, so perhaps this is an opportunity to explain why it's last.
Yeah, thanks for picking up on that again, Paul. Yeah, look, too often I find business owners worry about who they need to recruit to do jobs, and they often hire too quickly or just based on convenience, and then they don't match the right person to the right job. As a result, you find people leave because they're unhappy and unfulfilled, and the jobs in the end don't get done. It's far better, I've found, to get the things in the other three quadrants sorted, and then you know exactly who you need to do what job. And they know before joining you what your mission and values are, what your focus and your direction is, and what's expected of them. That way there's no surprises. You're more likely then to recruit the right people and retain them longer doing this once you have a good handle on the other aspects of the business. So the areas covered in this quadrant, as you can see, are recruitment and retention, as I've mentioned before. The model also looks at leadership and team building within this quadrant and how to develop individuals and teams for maximum effectiveness. Delegation of tasks and how customers are managed, particularly the disgruntled ones, are areas that need careful consideration in any business. And I think I recall the estimate that every disgruntled customer will tell 9 other people of their experience. So it really is important that this is addressed in very clearly in any business. Another area that business owners don't consider seriously, as I have there, is succession planning and the possible eventual sale of their business. So by following the model and establishing all the various procedures and systems, it actually enables a business owner to pretty easily create a nice written business plan, whether it's a multi-page thing or just a few pages, but at least it's a written plan, and that makes the sale of the business in the future a much easier task.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. Now we have a few minutes, so Rob, can you summarise the model briefly, and then I believe you have a workshop arranged for those who want to explore this further.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Look, I do have a workshop, but here's a brief summary of what we've learnt first. So the CUSP model is a quadrant model that visually and practically helps organise your thoughts and actions for a successful business. It comprises 4 areas which are completed essentially in order of the model, but while keeping a close eye on how they all integrate together. The quadrants, as you can see there, are culture, or the why you own business, the unifiers, or the aspects that keep the business in order, the what, the systems, which are the written processes to be followed to deliver the unifiers, in other words, the how, and finally the people, or the who, will be delivering on the promise of the business. And as you can see in this graphic, I've represented those as the dream, the plan, the process, and the human touch. Now, while I've simplified this, there is a significant amount of work involved to complete the respective tasks in each quadrant. The more effort and honesty, the more resilient and effective the strategies that are derived from this model. And I like this quote from Jesse Owens. We all have dreams, but in order to make the dreams come into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. And this model, while it is simplified and put into a nice little four square system, it does require you to put some effort in. So the workshop that I have, because we have summarised it here for the CUSP model, is a 2-day boot camp. And in this one, I delve deeper into each quadrant and their various aspects. Each comprises a number of worksheets and templates that we work through, which then makes it easy to develop the actions. Perhaps, Dave, before I go into the boot camp into a bit more detail, Paul, there might be some questions out there, and I can provide details on the boot camp again before we sign off.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Well, I for one found that useful, and can see how it can help organise a business owner's plans for his or her business to succeed. So if anyone has any questions, please type it into the chat box now. I'm scanning through some questions and comments coming through. Okay, we have one here relates to the SWOT analysis from Barry, who says that he's asked to do SWOTs all the time, and they usually just repeat them year in, year out. He says, you make it sound really important, Rob, but that's not his experience. Is it really that important?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Barry. And look, I can fully appreciate where you're coming from. That's exactly what I challenged a lot of the product managers that I had working for me when I was in the pharmaceutical industry with. There's always time pressures to complete documents, so many other things that seem more urgent and relevant, particularly to the marketers. But you know what? It was the ones who went the extra mile and really understood their market, and particularly their competitors, that, in my experience, had products that exceeded the budgets they set. As a result of having more complete knowledge, they anticipated where things were moving, and they had contingencies in place for the various possibilities that they had considered could be an issue. So this resulted in them actually getting better results and sales and awards and things like that. So, and I believe that translates to any market really. The more you know about yourself and your market, and the stronger your strategies are as a result. So yes, I believe it is important. In fact, it's more so possibly than any other activity, I think, in a business. As I mentioned earlier, Barry, I'll be devoting a whole webinar on this in 4 weeks. So, if you'd like to know more, I recommend you register and come and listen to me expand on that even more then.
Okay, so we've got another question from Jeff, who says he hasn't heard of the 4 stages of learning model. Can you explain that one?
Yeah, sure, Paul. And thanks for the question, Jeff. The 4 stages of learning reflects the 4 states that someone goes through when committing something to memory, so that it becomes an unconscious act. So, so you start with being unconsciously unable. So you don't know what you don't know, and you haven't been taught. So that's the first stage. So that's truly ignorant stage. You then transit through the consciously unable stage. So this is where you're taught, but you still can't do it. So you know there's something you need to do, but you don't know how to do it. Then after learning and getting more exposure, you work towards becoming consciously able. In other words, you know it, but you need to be thinking about it. And finally, after a bit more repetition and practice with whatever you're doing, you become unconsciously able, and it becomes second nature to you. So it's, all these stages. It's a bit like riding a bike or driving a car. You go through all those 4 stages to a point where riding a bike and driving a car is second nature to you. So that's what the 4 stages of learning model is that was developed. I think it was 1970s or 80s now, so it's quite a while back.
Oh, okay, so we have a question here saying that the model seems a lot of work for a small business owner. It sounds fine for larger businesses where they can allocate people and money towards it, but is applying this model and writing up all those processes and systems really something a micro or small business owner can achieve?
Yeah, you can't. I can't say no. Look, it is hard work, and yes, it's true. You look at any of the Fortune 500 companies. Look, they all have some sort of strategic planning. I guess the answer to that is you get out of the business what you put in. If you play small, you'll stay small, and if that's what you want, then don't put any extra effort in it. I'd like to think though that most people would like to grow their business and be able to sell it at some stage or pass it down through the family. By spending some effort early on to develop a stronger foundation to grow it and develop habits that stand the test of the time, it helps you do that. I'm not saying everyone should have a Bible-sized business plan, but what I'm saying, start somewhere and build on it as you gain more and more information. Once you start, the wheels keep rolling and the information gathering will become second nature. One thing for sure is that most businesses, in my opinion, that do fail, and you see the statistics in the papers, usually don't have any formal written plan. So at least start with something and let it grow with you as you grow. Okay. So that's my answer to that one, Paul.
Cool. Okay. So question on CSF, and I must say I was a bit the same with this. It's like critical success factor, and you think, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then you start to think a bit more about what that actually means. So could you just explain what exactly is a CSF for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just give us an example or something.
Yeah. A CSF, critical success factor. Look, as the name suggests, it's an activity that's critical to the success of the business, the achievement of its mission. It's a term that I believe started in the 1960s. I'd have to check that, but I'm pretty sure it's at least 50 or 60 years ago. And it's a statement that describes really what is crucial for your business to focus on for success. And they're generally statements that things that are measurable and observable. So they're usually directed at making most of a strength that you have, that you've identified, or directed at minimising one of your weaknesses, so it doesn't become a toil on your business. So let me see some of the examples that I've seen. There seems like critical success factor could be to maintain a strong brand image and awareness. So if you're in a very congested market, you really, critical to the success is that you've got to maintain that strong brand image and awareness in that congested market. You could have if you're a service-based business, you could have a critical success factor that is focused on customer loyalty, for example. If you've got a retail shop and you've got products, you could have a CSF that relates to product quality. So you want to maintain a certain product quality success factor. If your business relies on, like a sales business where even real estate agents, for example, you want to attract the best people. So that could be a critical success factor for you, that you attract the best employees. You could have a business that's working in a fast market, so you may need to make pretty quick decisions. So you need to have a flexible business, one that responds to the market quickly. So that could be a critical success factor. Maybe that's enough there, Paul. There's all sorts of things that, anything that's really critical. Something that's a strength you want to emphasise, and something that's a weakness you want to address. And if it's critical to your business, then you have this critical success factor that is clear and that everybody's aware of.
Okay, fantastic. All right, I think that makes it a lot clearer. Now, that's sort of gone through the ones that we've received. This is a moment or two where, if anyone's got one last question to throw at Rob, here's your opportunity. So just
I can see one there from Helen. Thanks, Helen.
Yeah.
I can
Yes.
see do you have a process to help business owners create your mission and vision statements? And look, thanks for Helen. And it almost sounds like I've prompted you, because I've come into your business and helped you develop your mission and vision statements there. So yes, I do. It's a process that I have that, as you found, we involve the whole staff, or certainly the senior staff, depending on the size of the business. Sometimes you can't involve all of them, but I do have a process where we pull out the important factors that are crucial, and what your objectives and goals are. And I have that process, and I go into organisations and I take them through it. It's at least a couple of meetings. You have one meeting to get it all sorted out, and then you develop it, you live with it, and then we go in and readjust it at the end. And we look at the values as well, and develop a nice tight mission statement and a nice tight vision statement that's then put up on the wall, so all the staff can live by it and breathe it and express it to their clients. So thanks for the question, Helen.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Helen. All right, so okay, we've got one from Kylie. I'm always challenged by doing the SWOT. How to best do it is the question.
Thanks, Kylie. Yes, the SWOT. Again, it's a quadrant model, so it's a nice 4-step. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it isn't an easy task, like you've said, like you've implied, that it is quite challenging. But if you've got a bit of a guide and a template, it always helps. And I do have a guide on my website, my Grapes to Grange website. There is a resource there that you can download that helps you through the process. But the important things to keep in mind, and again, please, Kylie, register for my webinar in 4 weeks' time, and we can go through it in more detail. But briefly here, the core part of it is that strengths and weaknesses are internal. They're all about you and your business. Opportunities and threats are external. So they're all about the market and who you're dealing with. You can then go into a little bit more detail by doing a SWOT analysis on your competitors, which is a nice extension of your SWOT. So you work out what you think your competitors' strengths and weaknesses are, and that way when you develop strategies, you can actually hit some of their weaknesses and make sure their strengths are things that are going to impact on you. So you can actually set up strategies against your competitors that way. So there's a lot on the internet about SWOTs, with how to do them and how not to do them. But I follow that nice little quadrant model, and it's all about keeping in mind, in summary, that if you keep in mind that strengths and weaknesses are you and your business, opportunities and threats are the market, things outside of your business. That's a good way to start, and you can then keep on developing it as you go. And yeah, please register in 4 weeks, and we can go through that in a bit more detail. And I will be having some seminars to go through that with groups as well, so we can actually do it in a group session in the future, and we can work it live, so to speak. So thanks for the question, Kylie.
Yeah, I think SWOTs are one of those things that it's one of those, make sure you get the basics right. You hear it from sort of sports people a lot, and I think a lot of us are aware of the SWOT analysis, but it's and you go through the process to sit down to do it and think, oh, we're doing this again, but after you've finished it, you really sort of feel that the process was very valuable. It does. It does, though, does need some facilitation, I find, sometimes, because sometimes you need someone to ask you the questions that are fit outside the business. It's also
I add something to that, Paul. Sorry to knock you off there. So
no, that's fine.
The other, you're right. It does need. It's ideal if it can be facilitated by somebody who's done some of these in the past, because I've seen I don't know, probably hundreds of SWOTs in my 25, 30 years that I've been dealing with businesses and so on. And the other thing for Kylie's benefit to keep in mind is a strength is only a strength if it's something that stands out for you against your competitors. I find, for example, one of the most common things I find as a strength that people put down is to say, I'm passionate about what I do. And, that really doesn't tell me anything, because everybody's passionate about their business, so it's not really a true strength. So you have to be, you have to qualify everything. If you say you've got 30 years experience, absolutely, that's a strength. If you have a particular skill in one area that others don't, yeah, absolutely, that's a strength. And that's where the challenge can be, in being really honest about what really is a strength and what really is a weakness that you have. And if you have somebody outside, like you suggest, Paul, to facilitate that, it actually poses those questions, and you can actually create something that's actually a stronger document that way.
Yeah, it's great. And this is also an area that dovetails in really well with what I'll be covering next week or next fortnight, in the web forensics area, because really what we're doing in that area is, with the internet being so important to business these days, that the web forensics really takes you into that sort of that SWOT approach to your website and to your online marketing and that sort of thing. And that's one of the real reasons why Rob and I have got together, because there's so much interconnection between fundamental business management and what you need to be doing on the internet. So look forward to sort of moving on that subject in a fortnight's time. So we're nearing out of time. So let's just go back to that bootcamp details again, Rob. If you could just run us through that quickly.
Yeah, sure, Paul, thanks. Look, as you can see, having listened to the components of the model, it's quite simple in its structure, but there's a decent amount of work involved for each quadrant, and if you really want to get it right, it will take time. I've found that it takes a good 2-day workshop to go through this properly, and so I've developed this 2-day boot camp program which goes through each quadrant and the various actions in a bit more detail than we've been able to do here today over the webinar. I've scheduled it so that it takes only 1 day out of a working week, and obviously anyone coming from interstate can then extend their day and perhaps have a nice full weekend here in lovely Melbourne. Those participating in the boot camp will receive a printed manual covering all the core aspects that we've presented, and you can then use this as a guide during and after the workshop to further develop your own implementation plans. Look, as a minimum, the outcomes of the boot camp will be, completing a mission, vision, and value statement. We'll clarify what an ideal client is. We'll do an initial SWOT with what you do know, and then compile some core strategies, CSFs, benchmarks, and KPIs for your business. We'll also have some guest presenters along to cover sessions on digital and social media marketing, HR, insurance, and legal aspects. So it's a pretty full couple of days' work. Following this webinar, look, I'll email the registration link for that boot camp, along with the link for the webinar replay, which will come to you within the next couple of hours. So look, thanks for joining me today. Look, I hope to see some of you at the boot camp, and certainly pass the details on to anyone you think would benefit from organising their business this way using my CUSP model. I'd love to receive any feedback about the value of the information we've shared today, and certainly any suggestions for improvements. And if you've got any questions, for example, Kyle, if you want some more information on the SWOT, please do email me and we can get in touch, and we can discuss it a little bit further as well. So thanks again, everyone, for your attention, and hope you've found something of value out of the last 45 minutes.
So thanks everyone from me also for coming along today. We'd love you to, when you get the link for this webinar, to share it with people by email or on social media. It'll link through to the page on our website so that people get the value of what we've covered today. And we'd love to see you along in 2 weeks' time for our next webinar on web forensics, where we'll reverse the roles and Rob will be interviewing me. So from both of us, it's bye for now.